Hi, thanks for tuning in to News Sausage. This is Dan Marks. We are doing the show that unpacks the news of the week and grinds it up into a tasty, sausagey kind of way. I'm joined here again with my co-host, Sunny Riverside. Say hi, Sunny.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. This is Sunny. It is a wonderful day in my neighborhood. As I'm muddling through the tail end of the winter season, I'm pondering means of escaping my seasonal malaise without sunshine. I've done what a lot of people done, and I've gotten onto the internet and looked at things and read things and thought things and listened to things. Some things you find on the internet, it turns out, are not true.
No. Are you kidding me?
I
I'm pretty sure everything on the internet's got to be true. It's online.
Some people believe that. In fact, an interesting amount of people believe that, and a lot of them tend to be conservative, it turns out.
I have noticed that. I did see the article. Quite a lot of comments seem to be going on my Facebook page regarding this particular study. It seemed like people were pretty quick to agree with the findings of it. And I've kind of been under the impression that a lot of people on the right have been almost behaving like they're in this alt-right alternate reality, and they've been programmed like cult members by Fox News and alt-right media sources by like 2 decades now, and they're fully immersed in this alternate reality, and they're pretty hard to talk to.
Oh, they certainly are. It's disturbing to know that there are people who hold ideas and beliefs that are founded on inaccuracies and outright lies. The article you're talking about, let's give credit where it's due. This is a study that was released February 7th by Oxford University. Study of Twitter users with strong connections to one of 10 political groups along the entire spectrum. And these researchers found that 96% of Trump backers widely shared junk news and did so more than all other groups combined. And these groups included military and gun rights supporters, liberals, and other Democrats and other groups. Among 13 similar categories of Facebook users, 91% of hard conservatives circulated junk news. Also, they did that more than all other categories of users combined. And I think that's pretty telling and of the factioning and fracturing of our culture and our nation. We tend to live in respective echo chambers where we repeat what we believe and we share what we believe with people who believe similarly to what we do, and nobody questions it.
Right. Just kind of reinforces those opinions. If we've seen in the face of factual information, it's just scoffed at and completely disregarded. It's nearly impossible. But you were talking about, you kind of noticed a pattern in the messaging that they're doing. And
yeah, that's right, Dan. I took a little time and I looked at some of the very extreme right conservative Facebook pages that acquaintances of mine make reference to, and I found a trend of categories of some of this information. One is that memes, particularly simplistic one-sentence statements, 1 or 2 sentence statements geared to one category of that information is intended to pit minority groups against one another. For example, I saw a meme showing a picture of a crying woman with 3 children, and the caption was that I don't remember the name. It was clearly a Jewish name. Man was murdered by a dreamer who he had given a ride to in his car, but because this Jewish man turned the wrong way on giving this freeloading dreamer a ride home, the dreamer killed him and left his widow and his orphan children, and that's why the dreamers need to go. So it pits the dreamers against the Jews. It pits blacks against Hispanics. It pits everybody against everybody, fracturing the country. Another category I've noticed is like an unidentified evil, quote unquote, they, who are operating, quote unquote, out there. Things like a picture of a hypodermic needle wedged into the handle of a gas pump, saying they are putting HIV-infected needles on gas pumps. Watch out. Other ones I've seen were they are gluing razor blades onto the playground equipment. Even if these things turn out not even to be true, there is enough fear that it generates that it casts doubt and suspicion in the minds of people, so that anyone that they don't know, it's stranger danger, and that goes over. Another trend that I saw was obvious false spin, which premises, they take an obvious false spin premised on a misstatement of fact.
I've noticed some reoccurring myths that keep coming up. And really, I think these are established alternative facts that the alt-right truly believe. I made a list of the top 40 things that the GOP, Fox News, and the rest of the alt-right alternate reality believe that are not true. And
this is such a nail biter.
Hello again, and welcome to American Top 40. My name's Casey Kasem, and I'm all set to count down the biggest hits in the USA.
You know, there's some recent ones, of course, and I think everybody remembers Obama was born in Kenya, and this is regardless of whether his mother ever went to Kenya or not, which is quite a feat. So
territory of Hawaii.
That's right. Now, also, I'm going to reach back quite a ways, but you still hear it repeated year after year. Trickle-down economics works, and it's a real thing.
Hey, that's exactly what we have going on right now with this new tax bill that's been passed, which has resulted in crashing the stock market.
That's right. You just wait, people. You're going to get trickled on yet. Boy.
And eventually, if we just allow trickle-down economics to work, everybody in Arkansas is going to have 2 trailers.
Right. Well, you know, they said Bush called it voodoo economics way back when, but they were like, no, this is supply-side economics. It's a real thing. It really isn't. It's just political spin. It's not a real thing. Number 3, Nazis are liberals. We were talking about the list before we started recording. You hadn't heard that before. It's true. They think Nazis are liberals. They started off their campaign of terror by giving everybody health insurance. And that's why they knew that Obama was a Nazi right away. It didn't have anything to do with book burning and scapegoating and lying to everybody and corporatism. Nothing like that. But Nazis are liberals. And actually, I've heard that repeated on Fox News for more than a decade now. So forget about those people in Virginia and other places wearing the Make America Great hats and also the swastikas on their sleeve. That's nothing. Pay no attention.
Right.
Number 4, America is not a democracy, and democracy is bad. Don't even push that stuff around here. It's a democratic republic, and it is a democracy. So for some reason, they believe that mob rule is majority rule. No, that's not how it works. I just heard somebody just a week ago tell me that they're so glad that this incompetent, lying Obama is out of office, and this Donald Trump is a truth teller and such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, we're just lucky that we got rid of Obama before he could fully implement Sharia law.
That's right. Oh, I didn't even put that on the list. Holy moly. Yeah, we could have gone on all day about this. Number 6 on the list here. The U.S. government is trying to make everybody gay. Maybe you've heard about InfoWars telling everybody that they're putting chemicals in our tap water, that they've done tests in the Pentagon, and it turns frogs gay. So don't drink the tap water. The government wants to make us gay.
Don't drink the tap water from the Pentagon, for goodness sake.
That's right. Last week, we had the Nunes memo come out of the House Intelligence Committee. It went over like a lead balloon. Everybody in the media and with legal background on the left and the right thought this was complete waste of time. Even Comey tweeted, "Are you kidding me?" after he saw this. But you talk to anybody in that alternate reality, and it totally busted the FBI. They're in big trouble. Get the popcorn. This is getting great.
Yeah, I can't believe that Mueller is still a citizen of the United States after that memo.
No kidding. No kidding. They're going to deport him. This next one I have heard repeated. You talk about history revisionists. I put this up there towards the top of the list. Reagan brought down the Berlin Wall. A lot of these folks think that Reagan went to the Berlin Wall and said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, and the wall crumbled behind him as he said it, almost simultaneously. The wall actually came down under George H.W. Bush, and that was after Poland was independent because of the leadership of Lech Walesa, and to have a free independent Poland in between Russia and Germany is like removing your shins and expecting your feet to be intact. Let's face it, folks. It's pretty far removed that Reagan and the fall of the wall were actually truly connected. So now Iraq was part of 9/11.
Well, of course it was. That's why we invaded Iraq. Why else would we invade Iraq?
That's right. It came up over and over during the argument to invade Iraq. It was synonymous, and it seems like everybody in the Middle East is the Taliban to a lot of people in the alternate reality universe.
Right, despite the fact that it's known that most of the people involved in the hijacking of 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia.
Another one that came up a lot during the Obama administration was that Obama was constantly trying to take their guns.
He had to take them in order to give them to the Mexican gangs.
That's right. That's right. It is much more profitable but did he ever take a single gun from anybody? I don't recall that.
I don't believe he did.
Oh, I can't.
There's a reason you don't recall that.
There's some controversy out there about global warming, but this is the reality in the alternate reality universe, that the Earth warms in cycles, and this is just another one of those warming cycles. This warming of the Earth has nothing to do with all the carbon in the atmosphere. This is all natural. Well, yeah. You know who else knows about Earth warming cycles?
No, who?
NASA. NASA is also aware of the history of the Earth and had quite a bit of information posted on their website about global warming before the Trump administration started purging the website of information. So
I see what you did there.
Kind of wrong about that. Oh, coming in at number 12 on my list was lowering taxes creates jobs. That doesn't really actually spending money and doing projects creates jobs. A lot of people don't know that.
If you give a rich man $1, he'll put it in his pocket. But if you give a poor man $1, it'll pass through 6 hands and it'll still be in the rich man's pocket by the end of the day, but at least some other people have had use of
it. Right. Well, the economic term for that is velocity. You're putting money into the economy. It's moving through different entities, and that's the velocity of currency through the market. It's a really good thing for a healthy economy. And when you have a lot of that capital stagnant in some billionaire's offshore account, that's not really helping anybody too much.
Well, no. And do you remember Jimmy Carter's campaign plank where he was going to stimulate the economy by giving everyone $50?
Now, also, you talk to a lot of people on the right, and they're so mad at people that are on food stamps that they're making the government go broke. Feeding people is so expensive compared to everything else the government spends money on, especially the military.
Sure. I mean, everyone knows that everyone on food stamps is eating steak and lobster 3 meals a day.
Right. Everybody in America was so shocked about a year or two ago when a Chinese economist told us that one of the reasons that our budget is so out of whack is we spend so much money on wars and military that we can't afford it. And everybody, holy, like we never thought of that. It was such a revelation. I don't know why.
And how is that a revelation to anyone who has studied history? The Roman Empire, the British Empire, every empire that has ever existed has fallen because it's overextended itself with spreading military around the globe.
you could almost hear the gasp in the room, like, oh my gosh, you hear what he's saying? The next one I have on the list is most welfare recipients are lazy minorities.
Right, except it's factually inaccurate.
Oh yeah, that. The facts, my gut tells me they're lazy minorities, not people that actually have jobs, full-time jobs, maybe a couple of jobs, and actually happen to be majority of them white. So
it feeds into that whole notion, as I was talking categorically at the beginning, the unidentified they who are out there doing bad things.
Right. Damn lazy white people.
Yeah.
Working
right.
3 jobs.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Working full-time jobs without benefits and for low pay.
Sleeping in the cars.
Who can't afford to simultaneously pay rent and groceries.
I've seen some videos online recently, a rash of them. Really, if you're speaking a foreign language or honestly, maybe even just brown, you're a foreigner. And it's amazing, people that are actually citizens. There's a lot of people in the United States that speak Spanish. There's lots of people here that have grown up in homes that speak Chinese and Japanese but if you speak a foreign language, even if you're a citizen, even if you were born here, you're a foreigner, and that gives them the right to yell at you and scream at you and tell you to get out of the country, even if you're a citizen, which is remarkable.
Yeah, and that's not particularly new, even really. My mom told me about her experience when she was a child. She is of the age where she was in school during the Second World War, and she grew up in a small farming town in southeast Iowa. And there was a family of Germans, and it was not uncommon in farming communities in those days that were settled by Germans that there would be families that still spoke German in the home. And there was a family up the road who spoke German in the home, and everybody was convinced they were spies and didn't trust them, didn't do business with them, didn't interact with them at all.
The next thing on the list here, we were talking about this before. We kind of lumped a lot of stuff into this one. Everything the Clintons ever were accused of, they really did it. Even if it's been flushed out, disproven, come on.
They have killed more than 100 people.
Oh, yeah. Easily. Yeah. And have a child sex ring going on. And don't forget about that. Okay. Of course, we were also talking about
sex and pizza.
There has been just so many things that they've talked about in this alternate reality. It seems like every time there's a conflict, a pushback, and we're kind of struggling to figure out which is true, the GOP is never right. It always turns out to be a bunch of crap. And we were talking, when was the last time they were right about anything? Was actually the Clintons and that one incident with Monica Lewinsky. Well, they were right about that one. But honestly, if you have to reach so far to get into an intimate contact scenario, and that's your thing, you're going to wave around at everybody and say, look at this, look at this.
Rather than policy, rather than economics. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic, and they literally made a federal case out of it. Now, this is also a current one. The wall will stop Mexicans from coming to the United States.
Right. The majority of illegal immigrants come by airplane.
Right.
Just overstay their visas.
Former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, pointed out that a ladder is awfully handy for circumventing a wall as well. So it is a joke, a very expensive joke. And, there's these people on the border that have been for the wall and are now finding themselves on the wrong side of it and are really mad. What are these people going to learn? That the things you hope will make others' lives miserable will probably end up being used against you eventually. Also, did you know that pollution is actually good for trees?
Oh, cool. Then we should be in good standing. We should be in really good shape.
Yeah, car exhaust.
That is why we're eliminating the EPA, because it was actually counterproductive.
Exactly. You want trees to grow. Car exhaust is great. Lots and lots and lots and lots of car exhaust. It's what they breathe.
Right.
It's like Idiocracy, where they have the electrolytes growing the crops. They haven't figured out it's killing them. This is real, folks.
Gallagher's justification where cities are better than the countryside for the environment because in the countryside you have farmers who are planting crops and they're leaching the nutrients out of the soil. But in the city, you have the city puts down a parking lot and the asphalt seals the nutrients in the soil, thereby preserving.
Brilliant. That's a great analysis. Al Gore told everybody he invented the internet. Did you realize that Al Gore claimed that he invented the internet?
No. Well,
no,
I have heard that.
Claim that.
I am aware that he was part of the United States Senate that authorized funding for the project that ultimately resulted in creating the internet.
Well, it was already created before that. It was a military project from a long time ago, but it created the public internet that turned out to be a pretty good thing for the economy.
Oh yeah, true.
And I use it. I'm soaking in it now. This just came up just a couple of months ago. But child molesters are actually better people than the young girls who need abortions or anybody else who supports the abortion. So they're fine for Senate. That'll be fine. People of Alabama, too many people in Alabama apparently thought that this last year. And yeah, boy, Doug Jones barely beat a child molester for the Senate. That's something.
Yeah. I can't. There's nothing humorous to add to that.
No, not really. Poor people spend all their money on booze, women, and movies. That's from none other than our own Chuck Grassley from Iowa, who believes that if you're not a multimillionaire that's worthy of the estate tax, which basically for a single person over $5 million worth, if it's a couple like $12 million net worth, if you're not that rich, you have obviously blown all your money on booze, women, or movies.
Yeah. How foolhardy is that?
This one is one that blows my mind. And I hear it over and over again, especially when we talk about race issues in America. Did you know slaves had it good?
I did not know that.
They had masters that took care of them, fed them, made sure they had good living conditions. And when they were freed, they just wanted to go back to work on those plantations. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
It's true. No, it's not. It's not true at all. Slaves. They were beaten, raped, split up, sold.
Let's say just stop at slaves. Period. They were chattel property. That's not. There's nothing positive to come out of that.
What can you say to a person who tells you slaves had it good? I mean, that's kind of a non-starter on the conversation. That's kind of what the article's getting at too. Is where do you go from there?
Well, right. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's where we were going with this list, wasn't it? All of these, all of these horrific things that you simply can't even rebut because where do you begin?
Right. That's just a non-starter. Here's another economic myth that a livable wage, a minimum wage that people can actually live on is bad for business. It's going to actually hurt jobs and businesses across the country if we actually give people enough money to do more than maybe just put gas in their car and feed themselves and barely pay the rent in a lot of cases. In fact, a person making minimum wage in this country cannot pay rent in any state in this country. So it's not a livable wage at all.
No. And even Henry Ford had that one right, when he said that it's necessary to pay the workers enough so that they're able to buy the product that they make.
And Henry Ford is a big right winger back then. He's no
a little bit
bleeding heart liberal by any means. Most on the right never thought that GOP would throw grandma off a cliff. It's been a recurring theme in a lot of Democrat ads that the Republicans were going to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, basically make it impossible for grandma to stay alive. They kept saying, no, that'll never happen. It's all a story.
Until they do it.
Until they do it. And now they're talking about doing it more and again and just eliminating the program altogether. It's just terrible. And yes, they do. They don't care about grandma. They're going to throw her off a cliff. Now, Trump recently got himself into another scandal with Stormy Daniels. Word got out that they tried to pay her off, keep her quiet about an affair. But that's okay because Trump was chosen by God, so he can commit adultery with somebody for money if he wants. That's not a sin. It's okay. It kind of makes me wonder why these people are so certain that Trump's miraculous ability to win the election didn't have something to do with the Russians or the devil. And, honestly, it could be the devil. Doesn't the devil have the power to do exactly what Trump did?
Well, I know that from the Tao Te Ching, he who says he knows does not know. And he who knows does not say he knows. He who has integrity does not say he has integrity. And he who says he has integrity does not have integrity.
Oh, well, I do have integrity.
Trust me.
Believe me.
Exactly.
Also in the God category there, we hear this about every time there's a hurricane or something. God keeps devastating these cities because of gay people or Obama. It's one of the two.
Obama?
Yeah, there's a couple of those reports. And
actually, Obama is gay. He's a secret gay Muslim.
That's right. And Michelle Obama is a man. I don't know if you've seen those pictures. Is also
hence her beautiful, slender, shapely arms.
Have you seen those memes?
No.
They're oh, really? Oh, it's a thing. It's a thing. Republicans are really good at war. Did you know that?
Well, they seem to be good at getting people killed.
Absolutely. So they're really good at war. They stand around with flags around behind them, and I think the last military victory was either Grenada under Reagan or go back to the Korean War.
Grenada,
where we had Ike.
Woohoo!
We're going back to the 1950s. The truth is, Republicans just really aren't that good at war stuff at all. We've also heard a lot about guns recently, and you talk about the Second Amendment with folks, and they don't quite seem to understand that the Second Amendment is not for revolting against the government. They think it is, and it's not. That's not why it's there. And the Congress in the Constitution has enumerated powers to quell an insurrection. So it is absolutely not a constitutional right to revolt against the government. That's not what guns are for. So give that up, folks. Also, on the Second Amendment, regulated. That doesn't seem to be in the Second Amendment, according to people in the alternate right universe. We're not supposed to be able to regulate it whatsoever. Everybody thinks that regulating bump stocks is somehow violating the Second Amendment. Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. Now, the next thing on the list here is that Black Lives Matter. It's been a very contentious thing on the right, and mainly because they have intentionally interpreted Black Lives Matter as to mean only Black Lives Matter, when really the meaning is Black Lives Matter too.
And again, it goes back to that narrative of the frightening, the myth of the dangerous black man and the scary, evil people who are out there doing bad things. Whoever those people are, there are certain segments of the population that always conjure up the frightening black man. And it's not a racial revolution. It's not black people standing up to say, screw you, we're the master race. It's saying, hey, whoa, we're equal here.
We talked too about what we could possibly do about that, and countries like Canada, United Kingdom have laws against media perpetuating lies that will incite hatred against ethnic groups. They don't have to be a minority, could be a majority, can't incite hatred against white people or black people or Muslims. You also can't lie to the public on airwaves and through media in those countries. And
I think that's a pretty good policy.
I do too. I think it's reasonable. We do have some reasonable restrictions on free speech, like shouting fire in a crowded movie theater or bomb on an airplane. Can't slander or libel against people. So there's some restrictions out there, and like we we're talking about. These people are completely brainwashed. We need to turn off Fox News because this is really damaging our society. Thanks for listening once again this week. Want to say goodbye, Sonny?
Yep, this is Sonny saying goodbye and reminding you to think before you speak and research before you repeat.